Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm excited. I have my new friend, Elaine Godley, on with me. Elaine, why don't you, first of all, introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure, lovely to be on. Thank you for the opportunity, Jeff. So I am Elaine Godley and I live in the Algarve in Portugal. Recent import 4 years ago. And I work with lawyers and accountants predominantly to help the managing partners in the senior management teams to be well. And in turn, I expect them to inspire their teams to be well, and then their teams to go home and inspire their families to be well. It's that simple.
I love that. Now, first of all, let's define what you mean to be well, because I think a lot of people think that wellness is the opposite of illness. I think there's more to it. What's your definition of being well?
So I talk a lot about balance, living life in balance, which is really important. And if we don't have our life in balance, and we hear about work-life balance, but we've got a whole, we could go down any number of rabbit holes with that. We need to be happy in whatever environment we're in. So many people come to work, they give their all, they go home exhausted, and they're fractured with their families because they're too exhausted to participate, and the relationships break down, etc., etc. Wherever you are in life, you need to be happy and comfortable in your own skin, and that in turn will bring wellness. So it's a kind of an all-encompassing word, but to me, it's being comfortable in your own skin, and then your health and well-being will improve, period. It's very, very straightforward.
I love that. Now, I want to know first, and then we're going to get into some tangents here, but why accountants and lawyers in particular? Why are you so passionate about supporting those two groups?
Okay, I've been in their shoes. I've been a woman in a man's world for most of my life, and for many of those years, I was managing partner of a number of law firms in the UK, and also I was in senior management and chief operating level in Ernst & Young, Grant Thornton, Panuka, Forster, various other accountancy practices. So I know from the inside out how stressful the professional services arena is, lawyers and accountants. So I can identify, I can speak the language, walk the talk, walk the walk, blah, blah, blah. And I came a cropper because I was giving my all in the workplace and justifying all the hours I was putting in with the fact that I was having so much fun, I was enjoying myself, it wasn't work. So I was playing rather than, being at work, in my mind. However, many years went by and I ended up with stage 4 cancer and given a year or less than a year to live. So that was a huge wake-up call. And the long hours, the stressful environment is not conducive to wellness. So I've since retrained as a biohacker and a nutritionist. And so I've got the understanding of how life is within the practice, how stressful it is, what can be done to kind of backpedal and get yourself out of difficulties when you're in difficulty. And also I specialize in disbehavioral profiling. So I can tell by looking at somebody's behavior pattern, the likelihood of somebody being ill, what their symptoms are, how close they are to burnout, if they've exceeded burnout, and so on. So I've got the full package, if you like, from being in the environment to being out of it and seeing the health and wellness piece go up and down.
I love it. Now, you don't have to give me a scientific answer, but Are there different ailments specific to each of the elements of disc? Like,
There
is
are,
there?
yes, yes, yeah,
I,
there
I,
are.
tell me more, because I'm fascinated by that. And let's talk about it from the perspective of why somebody should learn their discs so that they can identify, let's call it risk factors. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
yeah, absolutely. So we've got four quadrants. I mean, we're not talking about pigeonholing people and putting them into to buckets and this type of thing, but we're looking at the blend, and every one of us has DISC characteristics in us: dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. I've got my own words, I've got slightly different words, and I've got my own system that's on the back end of my website. So my system links with health and well-being. So in answer to your question, the extrovert types of behaviours, which are the D and the I's, are more prone to sports injuries, high blood pressure, more kind of physical type of ailments, burnout, etc. Whereas the S and the C types, which are typically your accountants, they would be more prone to introverted types of behaviours and holding on to health thoughts, things, gut issues, migraines, sort of introverted, closed types of illnesses, whereas the others are more, you can see what's going on because they're telling you, and you can physically see what's what.
They're the silent desk injuries almost, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You
And
know,
that's
high blood
where
pressure, stroke, heart attack, cancer.
Um, yes, yeah, and but we're all predisposed to all of these things if we really get down to it. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, all of us die from one thing, which is lack of oxygen, and that comes in many forms. So we have lack of oxygen because we're not exercising enough, we're not hydrating enough. Very, very simple things. There's no rocket science to keeping well.
Yeah.
And even though now the workplace is predominantly sitting down, we can still, have a break every half an hour or something. We can, I don't know, walk around the block, use a rowing machine, get fresh air, and it's up to us to do it. And we should take responsibility, but unfortunately, not many people do.
Hmm. And it's funny because I do a lot of conversations about wellness, and forgetting specific industries, almost unanimously, first thing is drink more water. You
Mm.
know, that the
Cheers.
second thing is move more, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I always have water at my immediate reach. And I think a lot of people they want something complicated, and it's like, let's start with the basics of hydration. And the other one I find is teaching people how to breathe intentionally.
Yeah, breathing is really, really important. When I had stage 4 cancer back in 2015, one of the things I learned was something called Buteyko breathing, which is nose breathing. And for anybody who has sleep apnea or snoring, whatever, this is a really good technique. You breathe through your nose. So you close your mouth, you breathe in through your nose, you breathe out through your nose, and then you pause. And in that pause, the carbon dioxide and the oxygen does a magical dance, and you end up with oxygen flooding in your body. And the longer you can pause for, the greater the benefit to your health. And that's free, doesn't cost anything to do that.
I think I learned this from Tony Robbins a long time ago, but he taught something very similar. It was breathe into the count of 4 through your nose, hold it for the count of 4, breathe out for the count of 4, which, by the way, I almost pass out by the time I get to 4. And then you hold that empty pause for 4 seconds, or the count of 4. And that, like you said, it optimizes the mixture of oxygen and carbon dioxide. He, as I recall it, he got it from military, and they use that to teach soldiers in the field how to overcome the panic of fight, flight, or freeze,
Yes.
and to drop from emotional reaction, which is where disease lives, and rise up into our rational brain, and to be able to think things through. So
Yeah, it slows the heart rate down. So when the heart rate is slowed down, it means that you've got clearer thinking. And so many people are living on adrenaline, and particularly in practices where there's lots of pressure and deadlines and so on and so forth. people are running on adrenaline, and that's not healthy. But every now and then we need adrenaline, to run away from the bears and the nasty lions that are chasing us. But I mean, that's thousands of years ago. That doesn't
Yep.
typically happen in the office. But you mentioned water, Jeff. Water is really important, but the right type of water. Never touch water from a tap because of the contaminants in there, particularly fluoride and chlorine and all sorts of nasties in there. And I would recommend for some people, if they've got any health issues, to actually have the water tested in their area. And I would guarantee there'll be some contaminants in there which we're ingesting.
Oh, that's good to know. I only drink filtered water, but I always suspect that I'm not filtering enough because, you live in a city, you get city water, which, let's not discuss where that water came from.
Mm,
It should
yeah,
come from nature, but
well, it does come from nature. It comes from what comes out of your body, including all the medication that people are
yeah,
on, including the birth pill and heart medication and everything else.
yeah.
We're consuming it.
Yeah, it's kind of when you stop and think about it. I mean, the whole point of water treatment is to take impurities out. But there are so many, like the medications, that literally, I'm seeing reports where, communities are reporting that fish are mutating
Yeah.
because of the chemicals in the water. Um, you and I could talk all day. I will respect your time, I promise. For somebody who wants to know more about Elaine and what she does, where can people get to know you better? Where are you found online? And what's the next step if somebody loves what they're hearing and they want to meet you?
Okay, so LinkedIn is my playground. So I'm known as Elaine Godley, the disc profiler on LinkedIn. And I have various different websites, and I also have a health hub, which is a repository of online resources, downloads, go-tos, etc., for people who think they don't have time to be well. There's lots of DIY health resources there, but all available through my LinkedIn. It's the best place. So Elaine Godley on LinkedIn.
I love it. Now, Elaine, you're the expert at being Elaine. Is there something I should have asked you that you're like, Jeff, why didn't you ask me this?
Oh, good question.
Or a final thought if you want.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm often asked is what are my top 3 tips on keeping well? And you've mentioned hydration, the gentle exercise I mentioned, but the other thing is vitamin D and oil. A lot of us don't take the right type of omega oils. So that's another free, well, no, it's not free, you have to buy it, but very simple strategy. So basically keep it simple and don't take supplements unless you're tested. I offer health testing for my clients, hair mineral analysis and blood testing. And we can tell from those blood tests, hair analysis and the behavior analysis, that gives a good picture of what's going on in the body. And then we can reverse even stage 4 cancer, as I did in my own case, we can reverse when we know what we're dealing with.
I love it. Now, I'm going to ask you a question because my brain is telling me I should have asked this. I want you to bust a myth for me. A lot of people say I don't have time for wellness. What would you say to that? I have an answer I use, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, if you don't make time for wellness, at some stage you're going to have to find time for illness.
Yep. Love it.
Is that
And
your answer?
I was going to say, if you don't have time to be well, when are you going to find time to be sick? I mean, seriously. And, the alternative to illness is death, and that's a pretty permanent solution. I really believe that, and I love the biohacking because I think we can, and I read somewhere that they believe the human body is capable of a natural lifespan of somewhere around 120 years. The problem is most of us don't want to live that long because we're in such bad shape by the time we hit 65, 70. People are thinking, oh my God, when's it going to end? We should put more life into our years. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And I'm 67 in a couple of weeks, and I'm in better shape now than I've been in, for a long, long time. And prior to my stage 4 cancer in 2015, I had 2 previous breast cancers. And I'm a great believer that we have to listen to our body. And I got stage 4 cancer because I wasn't listening on the first 2 times. The universe sent me breast cancer, then again, and then it's almost like, "You're not listening to this, you're not listening, girl. Here
Yep.
we go. You're gonna have to listen and stop." And that's what happens. So don't be silly and don't do what I did and just carry on, carry on. You really do need to listen to the body.
I'm a firm believer that the universe teaches us the lessons at the duration and volume we need them to absorb it. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people ignore the lessons and end up dead. Whereas, I think it's easier to address cancer before we get to stage 4. I'm a big fan of prevention over restitution. So, um,
Absolutely. It's much easier to avoid illness than it is to recover from it, much easier.
well, and I'm just going to say, if you think that wellness is expensive, taking time to deal with stage 4 cancer and all of the things that come with it, far more expensive. Is that fair?
Generally speaking, yes. In my case, I beat it in 3 months, and that was
Wow.
because I'm bloody minded and I've got a really tough disc profile. So my profile got me into trouble, but it also saved my life as well. So I have no complaints.
Yeah. And again, that's an expensive, it beats the alternative, but wouldn't it be nice, to take the time and prevent it rather than deal with it after it stirs? Because for the
Yeah.
record, I'm one of those people that's got to deal with it after the fact, but
But you're a man. Men don't generally take notice of any bodily functions until things are dropping off.
I was
You know.
deeply annoyed when I realized that I was human and I had to deal with health issues. It was like, no, 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 that's not on my agenda. Leave me alone. But I needed those lessons. So, Elaine, I want to thank you for hanging out with me today. And for anybody watching, I'll put your contact details in the show notes. It's an inspiration, and I want to thank you for hanging out with me.
Lovely to chat with you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.